All right, welcome back inside the Now Morning Show, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday morning, and I hope that you're having a great Tuesday so far. It's just about 5 minutes before 7 o'clock, and this morning joining us is the chairperson of a Lifeline to discuss, just Friday's World Suicide Day. So we're going to discuss a bit about that and Lifeline's role in helping those who may be struggling with suicide or suicidal thoughts. And to do that, I want to welcome Lucretia Gabriel. Good morning to you, Ms. Gabriel.
Good morning, sir.
How are you doing this morning?
Beg your pardon?
I'm asking, how are you doing this morning?
Fine, thanks.
All right, so tell me about Lifeline. How did you guys start Lifeline, and how long has it been in existence?
Lifeline has been in existence for 43 years. 10 people got together and were really crazy, decided when Trinidad had a moratorium on phones to start a helpline for those who were despairing and suicidal. So it took us about 7 years to get our own phone, but we still ran the service.
And since then, approximately how many calls do you get on a daily basis of people struggling with suicidal thoughts?
10 to 30 calls a day. It should be 150.
Why do you say it should be?
Well, when you can calculate it, and if the service is, for you to consider that the service, everybody who needs it knows about it, that's the number of calls you should get.
Right. But as it stands right now, you say you receive about 30 to 40 per day.
No, 10 to 30 per day.
10 to 30,
and
sorry.
Those are 80% of the people who call us are at high risk. They've either about to do it or they have done it. And so that is the concern. It used to be 10% of our calls were from people who were like that, and now it's 80% on a daily basis.
How confidential is the information that people share with you guys at Lifeline?
Beg your pardon?
How confidential is the information? Like people call in with their situations, their troubles, their issues?
It's totally confidential. That's one of the things, that it's anonymous and it's confidential. There's absolutely no way we're telling anybody anything anybody's told us. That is critical.
Right.
To somebody trusting that when somebody's suicidal, they don't want anybody to know. They prefer really to kill themselves than anybody to know their business. So they have to know that whoever it is they call is going to tell nobody.
And how do you guys measure the success of those calls? So if you're saying 80% of the people that call in now, they have attempted suicide or they're on the verge of attempting suicide. How do you measure the success of that call?
By how the person feels at the end of the call. The person initiates the call and the person terminates the call. And they normally terminate it when they feel better. The feeling to kill yourself will go up and down. But if you can talk to somebody at your lowest point and connect with that person because they've listened to you, the person, then that helps the person to get over that feeling and they start to come back to themselves.
Do you
how you do it.
Do you guys train people to be suicidal hotline workers?
We prepare people. We don't train. The reason is it's the person's it's a listener's innate ability to listen. So you prepare. You can't put it in. We're very careful about words.
Okay. All right. And how does that affect, like, on a personal level, the people who take in the calls? How do they deal with, having to take on, I don't want to say other people's problems, but these to listen, to be able to be compassionate and to go through the pace. Does that not take a toll on them as well?
Yes, it does. It is that for the time that you are listening, it may be 4 hours at a time. You put everything about yourself on hold. It's not about you, the listener. It's about the caller. And therefore, we support each other. Listeners support each other. We do not discuss anything to do with Lifeline, even with members of our family. Only other Lifeline listeners. And nothing that is said to us can be said to anybody outside Lifeline.
And approximately how many people currently volunteer at Lifeline?
Beg your pardon?
How many people currently volunteer at Lifeline?
we normally have about 30 volunteers. We should really have 120. So the joke is that the aim is that it should not be too much for any one person. So therefore, they should really come in to listen 4 hours in, let's say, a month. Now it's a week, and it may be more than that, depending on the number of calls we have. People, of course, have their own lives. They may not be able to turn up for every shift that they were rostered for.
All right. So this is for me the important part of this conversation is how is Lifeline funded? Because I am sure that this is not a cheap expedition that you're doing.
Lifeline is really funded mainly by its listeners because it's our time. When it comes to funding, we're the last and least because of the deep, deep prejudice there is about the suicidal. And so we've always been able to count on one hand the people in the private sector who help us, and that's what makes us very grateful for every cent we're given. The other part of it is that we get a subvention from the government, which at most would give us 10 cents in the dollar to run the service as it should. In the last 2 years, we have not got a cent. We've been waiting essentially for the last 6 years to get a subvention. We're now at the point where we're being told, after we have been audited and all the rest of it, that the only way it will be considered is if we actually go into debt, because they want the audited accounts for the last 3 years, but the ministry itself has come in and gone through our accounts again and again up to last year. The only way it'll cost us $15,000 to do that we do not have. And so we barely have enough money to pay for the center, but we have a 24-hour service to run. We can't switch it off. We can't say to people, well, too bad, we've got no money, that's it. So we keep it running, no matter what. But those are the two sources. For the private sector and the government, there is no public relations or political advantage to giving us money. Therefore, we are not a priority.
And that's really unfortunate that it has to boil down to a public relations or political scenario for you to be able to get funding to continue something that is an essential service.
Look at the people who get funded. Really sit and think about it. I'm not going to come on television ever and tell anybody about anybody who we helped. We're not going to do that.
Ms. Gabriel, tell me something. How much money do you need? How much does it cost to run the facilities, to run the service?
To run the service properly costs about $11 million a year. But what we've asked for is $1 million. And we've not got it. We've not got a cent. So if you need $1 million and you don't get a cent, work out, do the arithmetic.
Well, they have no maths to do in there because they have no numbers to work with.
Well, they do, because it's taken for granted that even when they know that, they're going to come to you and say, well, really, we gave you no money, but we want audited accounts for you. And we know it's going to cost you $15,000 to get it. So you have to go into debt. Give us the audited account, because really we're trying to prove that you don't steal nothing. And you say, okay, but I don't steal nothing. The only way I'm going to get it is to promise somebody that if they do this for me for 3 years, when we get a subvention, we will pay them. But will you then give us permission to do that? You're putting us in debt.
Yeah.
This is unfair. Whoever it is who has gypped the government of money, it wasn't us. So no.
Ms. Gabriel, tell me, how can private citizens or corporate Trinidad, how can they get involved and get onto you guys to be able to offer their assistance? Because I'm sure that there are people who are looking on right now who can, even if it's $10 you can give them, it will go a long way to get to the million.
You can send it to our account. We have an account in Republic Bank. Send us an email and you can send it and we will account for it properly. Because, again, if anybody gives you money, you have to account for that money properly. You will do that. But
And
it is unconscionable.
Your email address, your email address for them to reach out to, Ms. Gabriel, is ttlifeline@gmail.com?
Yes. But let me say this, it's unconscionable behavior.
All right, so
really grind Ms. Gabriel, organization into the ground.
Yeah, and we don't want that to happen because I do think that it's important. We saw just recently a young man committed suicide at 30-something years old, 33 years old. And, you know, we want to be able to prevent situations like that as much as possible. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to make a call this morning on behalf of Lifeline. Please reach out to them at ttlifeline@gmail.com, ttlifeline@gmail.com, and you can request to get the account number and all the detailed information so that you can make a donation to Lifeline to be able to make sure that this service can continue running, because you never know when you yourself may need it or one of your family members may need it. Ms. Gabriel, it hurts to hear that you guys are having such trouble to be able to continue doing this very, very essential service. I want to find out, you know, what are some of the traumatic reasons, or what are some of the reasons that you get for people who want to take their own lives, who want to escape this life?
The general thing is that people's problems in their family. And that can range from childhood to the present. And the thing about becoming suicidal is you may have had those problems and you're just coping with them. And then something happens and everything goes south. And that's okay until the person's perspective on that becomes the only way to solve this is to kill myself. Then they become separated from other people, even their family, etc. So we are really honored if they will pick up that phone and say, I will talk to somebody. Therefore, we listen. The act of listening, allowing the person to tell you how they feel, why they feel it, releases that separation from others so that they can feel that I can go on one more day, one more time. And they will do that, but you have to listen as long as the person needs to talk. Our longest call has lasted 7 hours. Our calls could last from less than a minute up to 7 hours.
Wow.
And we don't know when it's going to happen. But you can't put the phone down on the person and say, well, it's normally half an hour, bye. Can't do that.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us this morning, Ms. Gabriel, and I want to wish you all the best going forward. I'm going to continue to make that call for people to email you guys at ttlifeline@gmail.com and reach out and lend your assistance. You know, if you have any accountants watching the show and you want to do the audit for free for them as a donation, we can do that as well. We could just find creative ways to be able to make sure that Lifeline continues to operate. Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Gabriel.
Before you go.
Pardon?
You see, could you do something which is just as useful? You see that ribbon at the end, at the bottom of the screen when you have your news, etc.
Yeah.
If you put that number on there, we have had people call us and you said, where did you get the call from? Where did you get the number from? And they said, I saw it running at the bottom of the news.
Right. Okay.
You see things like that we don't have to pay for, that helps tremendously.
All right. I will definitely talk to the team about
basis. Not just now, it's past September and you're done. Every day, put it up there. They look for it.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Lucretia Gabriel.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.